There's two types of Counter-Strike players, the ordinary guy and the guy who knows how to surf. Oh, and the guy she told you not to worry about. The guy who knows how to surf and shoot at the same time. It's called Combat Surf, and it was one of the most popular game modes of Counter-Strike Source, combining the best of both worlds with movement and shooting. And the maps from this era, man, that was something else with their monumental and Pythagorean compositions.
Hell no.
And for many of us, there's one map we think about when we hear Combat Surf. Well, it's a series of maps that are absolutely iconic, but they have always been a mystery to me. So little is known about them, and it's time to change that. This is the story of Greatriver. To understand the significance of Greatriver, we need to go all the way back. A young mapmaker named Marion was working on KA Killbox when he accidentally slid off the roof, discovering the surf mechanics for the first time ever. This was in the summer of 2004, and the same summer Marion made the first ever surf map called Surf the Gap. It had one round, and the point was to land on a water platform where you'd push a button to finish off your opponents. Now the reason he called it surf was because he thought it looked like people were surfing on these concrete waves. In the following months he kept on working on surf maps, but the new game mode didn't gain the traction Marion hoped for, as new players didn't know how to surf and would just rage quit after falling to their deaths. But in November 2004, things started to change as he released Surf Egypt, the first map he says he put any aesthetic appreciation into, and his small following at that time just loved the new map. Slowly, the surf wave was growing. More and more people started joining the servers that Marion and his friends were running on their computers. In the same month that Surf Egypt was born, Counter-Strike Source was released, and the golden era of surf was upon us. And in April 2005, a lot of CSS surf maps started appearing on Game Banana. In the following months, so many new surf maps were created for CSS, and many 1.6 maps ported over to the new engine. And finally, on October 2005, we find the first ever record of Surf Greatriver. Greatriver, we still think about you sometimes. And I always wonder, who made this map? What made this map so legendary? Now, the original version called Surf Greatriver was made by a map maker who went under the pseudonym Monkey Die. I didn't make his name, chose this upon himself. Okay, I did research, but there's very little information about this guy. But apparently he made Surf Japan as well. So this guy is a genius map maker. Except for the original version, Surf Greatriver Extreme 4 is arguably the most iconic one, created by a guy who called himself Black. And just as Monkey Die, very little is known about him. Apparently, he made two of the Extreme versions for the Extreme clan, alongside Junior, who made the first Extreme version. Of course, there are many other versions as well, like Surf Greatest River by Buck Nasty, and a lot of fixed versions that cleaned up the original. There's even a gayed out version. This map was so influential, and one of the reasons people loved this map was that it was easy to have fun even for beginners. Even if you didn't know how to surf, you could still grab a weapon right by spawn, and gradually you would make it down the first round. And Extreme 4 lowered the skill ceiling further by removing all the railings in spawn. So even if you failed at surfing, there's a good chance you would land safely on this huge water platform, and you could just teleport and start over. But if you did fall out of the map, you would end up in jail. And escaping the jail could be a tense and frustrating experience, as enemies could be lurking all around you. Of course, I'm talking about the jail campers, the vultures who would just wait for their next prey to fall down into jail. And getting out in Extreme 4 was even harder, as you had to hit the triple amount of buttons while being on the lookout for enemies. The pros knew a secret though. Greatriver was so popular that it even spread to TF2 and even got its own spin-off version of the map, Surf Greatriver. And years later, it lived on in CSGO as well, with many versions ported over and some Greatriver remakes as well. And today you can even find it in CS2. But are people still playing this game mode? I reached out to one of the greatest ever combat surfers, Darth Elmo. I'ma let you finish, but this guy is the most viewed combat surf video of all time. He told me that combat surf is still alive today, but fragmented and struggling. He said if he had to rank the popularity of combat surf platforms right now, it would probably look something like this. And he added that CS2 Combat Surf is still quite primitive in terms of map ports and server plugins, and that won't probably be changing soon without significant effort from community members, which leaves CSGO as the go-to for the core community right now. And on the topic of Greatriver, he points out that if you compare it with Egypt, Sky and Skyworld, other maps that were popular at that time, it's way smaller and has more of a focus around teleport hopping and repeatable routes. A player probably has much higher average engagements per minute on Greatriver OG than the other maps. It also is the only one of the four that he would describe as a map with a floor, causing the map to become much more forgiving for new players to learn, and even for veterans to grind. Now, many map makers contributed to Greatriver being cemented as legendary. While some were part of the Extreme clan, others were not. But the map makers from Extreme arguably did great changes to the layout, making the map more aesthetically pleasing, removing clutter so the surfing flows better, adding the legendary side ramps, and the most important change, adding heaven, giving this map a whole new dimension and maximizing the full potential of the space. Now, I wish this story had a happy ending like a Thai massage place, but unfortunately I stumbled upon something while doing research for this video. On the original Greatriver's Game Banana page, there is information about an earlier version, Surf River and Surf River V2. What? And the uploader was last seen in 2006. I have to find this map. But all my efforts yielded no results. And my only idea was the Counter-Strike Source subreddit. The only thing I could do was post and wait. And some hours later, someone answered. It's completely lost and the historical archive has been looking for it for a while. Some of the harder to find maps, lost and found, have been archived here. Check out the Google Doc for more info. Joshi and Richard are project lead on this. Now let's check out this link. Surf's Maps Archive, with download links and a list of missing maps. Let's see if Surf River is here. Best River, Greatriver, K2S Greatriver. But that was it. I had to find the guy who worked on this, King Yashi. I quickly got a match on a Steam profile. I left a message and I waited. And a few hours later, he answered. Yeah, we had spoken to Scott and the OX2 crew about the map, but no one really remembers it. Shug did have a copy on an old hard drive, but can't remember what happened to it. From recollection, it was just Greatriver without the jail and top area fully complete. Then he told me I should speak to Nexus, another guy who worked on the historical surf archive. He wasn't even sure if Surf River was ever released, so Monkey Die might have been the only one who played it among a few of his friends. He thought only someone from that OX2 clan could have it. And he said that he had talked to the old leader Shug with hopes that he would have the map file, but after taking forever to get his hard drive checked, it turned out to be corrupted. Is this really where the story ends?